How to bulk / gain weight as someone with IBS or just general poor gut health issues. I went from someone who was 50 kg, severely underweight for my height and age, 5'10", to now 75 kg, right? I'm not the biggest, but I'm now a healthy weight. Okay, I'm not into bodybuilding. I just wanted to look healthy and fit into a t-shirt. And if you're anything like me, then I can help you do that as well. Now, I want to share you the secret on how you can bulk with IBS, okay? And the first thing is to learn that. And how to bulk with IBS is that you don't, okay? You don't bulk with IBS. It is an awful idea and you should not do it. I tried for numerous years. I was this person who was dealing with gut issues, doing the 3,000 calories a day, doing the smoothies, the shakes, all the conventional fitness advice, and I was getting nowhere because my gut health was so terrible. First of all, IBS isn't really real. It just means you have poor gut health, and we're going to get into that. But you must learn that you need to fix your poor gut health before you try and bulk. Okay, I understand that isn't the sexy answer you're looking for, that isn't the secret, but you need to fix your gut health before you try and bulk. Otherwise, you're going to go and get nowhere. Because if you decide to not listen to this advice and you just try to bulk anyway, like I did for numerous years, it's going to be unsustainable, it's going to be miserable, and it's going to have a low ROI, which means a low return on your interest. Because I got no benefit from doing that for so many years, because I was just skinny, awful, tired, whatever. Because first of all, I was dealing with all these symptoms, as you might as well if you have gut issues, IBS, right? The stomach cramps, the diarrhea, maybe you have the constipation. And when your gut's already in a bad position, do you think that it can handle a calorie surplus? Absolutely not. It doesn't have the digestive capacity to be dealing with all the excessive food that you need to be eating to be gaining weight. So trying to do that when you already have a broken system, a broken gut, is an awful idea, okay? And we need to fix our gut before we do that. Because it was unsustainable, because one day I would eat the 3,000 calories. Next day I had awful stomach cramps. My stomach was hurting. Even when I was eating clean food, by the way, basic clean food, I was getting awful pain and I just couldn't do it. So then one day it was 3,000 calories. The next day it was 10 calories. So then how is that sustainable? It's not. And it was miserable because I was in pain most days. And the low return on investment is because my gut was so destroyed. Right? Your GI system is designed to break down nutrients and absorb nutrients. So even if you're hitting 150 grams of protein, well, how much are you actually breaking down and absorbing? And if you have poor gut health, I can tell you for now that that number is going to be low. That's going to be significantly lower than someone who has amazing gut health. So you're putting all this working, and I was, trying so hard and trying to make it work, and I wasn't even getting the result because my gut couldn't do anything with it. And people think that bulking is just about the input, right? Calories in, calories out, right? If I eat 3,000 calories plus or whatever your surplus is, I'll gain weight, right? But no one's thinking about once you put the food in your mouth, then what's the system that it's going through in your gut to actually be able to absorb the nutrients, right? Absorb the amino acids for muscle and protein synthesis. It's not just a case of eat food, gain muscle. There's a lot more to the system than that. And I wish someone told me this before. And if I actually just spent the next 3-6 months healing my gut, I would have made so much more progress a lot sooner as well. So first of all, when we're trying to gain weight, absolutely do not do a dirty bulk, right? Especially when you have gut issues and you're susceptible to gut issues. If you're having burgers and McDonald's and Cereals and high gluten, high lactose dairy, if you're doing all these things, you're not going to put yourself in a good position, because the most important thing when trying to gain weight is consistency. And if you can't do a day of eating every single day for 7 days a week, it doesn't matter. You can have a great day of, bulking, but if it doesn't mean you can do that every single day, then again, it doesn't matter. So you need something that could be sustainable, which means you need to be doing a lean bulk with whole foods. And then you also need to look at the system. So let me explain my story a little bit. So here are the macro pillars of gut health, right? If any of these are off, you can have gut issues, right? If you're new to my channel, these are what I call the macro pillars of gut health. If you're not, then here it is. So for example, the reason I was in this position is because I did so many antibiotics. I got stuck in kind of an antibiotic poor immune system loop because I kept getting tonsillitis like a few times a year. I kept having to take antibiotics, and that wreaked havoc on my gut, my immune system, meaning I needed it again and again and again. So then my gut bacteria, which is responsible for a big part of your digestion and your gut health, to break down nutrients, to ferment nutrients, to produce something called gut microbiome metabolites, to actually keep your gut healthy, this was completely destroyed, right? And that has a knock-on effect on my motility and my gut lining and the way I digest food and my nervous system and my lifestyle and all these things. So my actual system was broken. So it doesn't matter how many calories I was getting in, the output was, again, just pain and being skinny. So it wasn't until I actually started fixing this, right? And fixing all the gut macro pillars, which I have other videos on if you want to go in more detail. But for example, I needed to recover my gut bacteria from all the antibiotics. I did this through different strains of probiotics, things like spore-based probiotics, Saccharomyces boulardii, beneficial yeast, rebuilding with fermented food and prebiotics at the right time. That's an example of what we had to do to rebuild the system so the food can actually be utilized. Because I can tell you now that I probably eat less food than I do now than I did back then. But because my ROI, my leverage, and the absorption rate and the breakdown rate is so much better, I'm actually utilizing all the nutrients and minerals I'm actually eating because I've worked on all these macro pillars of gut health. And we have a full system that we take people through. And I've even had people that when we work on their gut health, they end up gaining weight anyway, even if they didn't change anything about their diet, because again, the utilization of those nutrients and minerals in food is so much better. You'll be familiar with this diagram if you've ever watched some of my content, but we need to kind of work on the gut in a systematic process to address all the macro pillars that we spoke about. For you, you might be dealing with something else. You might be dealing with constipation. And when you're dealing with constipation, you get bloating. You don't want to eat anyway. Your appetite's low. You can't be sustainable. You're not absorbing all the nutrients and breaking it down. So we have to make sure that we address that for you, for example. We have to make sure motility is good. If you're not going at least once a day, you're not ready to bulk, right? If you're getting bloating, you're not ready to bulk. Already the food that you're already eating isn't even being broken down properly. We need to make sure that on a maintenance diet, your gut is really good so it can actually handle the surplus that you're about to bring into it. So once you've removed 90% or pretty much all of these gut health symptoms that you're getting, especially the direct ones like bloating and diarrhea and constipation and stomach cramps, right? That's when you can start thinking about, okay, let me optimize to gain weight. Until you do that, I wouldn't even bother going into a surplus. So the question isn't how to bulk to gain weight as someone with IBS, it's how do I fix my IBS to allow myself to bulk and gain weight? How do I fix my gut issues? And if you want me to help you figure out how to fix your gut issues, you can book a free discovery call in the link in my bio, and we can break down your timeline and your symptoms, and we can see exactly how we can help you. You can also look at your timeline. For example, it was obvious what I was dealing with once I looked at my timeline. Oh, I started experiencing gut issues after the antibiotics. Clearly that wreaks havoc on my gut microbiome. That's something that I need to address. And all these come together anyway. Maybe it's a gut lining thing. Maybe you took loads of ibuprofen or something, and that can cause damage on your gut lining. Maybe you took loads of PPIs in the past for reflux, and that lowers your stomach acid, right? People all the days taking PPI and lowering their stomach acid. If you don't have sufficient stomach acid, how are you going to break proteins into amino acids? That's literally its job to do. How are you going to break down any of your food, right? Low stomach acid then affects your enzyme release. You're literally destroying the materials to break down your food, and you're wondering why you're not gaining weight because you can't utilize the tools and the minerals that you're giving yourself. So understanding your exact symptoms, understanding your exact timeline helps you understand what exactly is going wrong with your gut, and then working through these things systematically. Doing something for your gut lining, whether it be supporting the mucosal layer, different herbs like slippery elm, aloe vera, L-glutamine can be good in maintenance, zinc L-carnosine, upstream digestion, supporting your enzymes and using bitters and betaine HCl and all these areas. And if you cover your gut systematically, holistically, I have other videos on how to do this, then you're ready to gain weight. But there's not a sexy answer. Fix your gut makes it a whole lot easier. It's not just about what you eat, it's the full system. Any questions, leave them down below. Honestly, I wish someone told me this before. Until then, goodbye.